Leader, you are a leader. You are a leader. Rising right out your way. You're a leader. Simple teaching. That's how to reach your endless ambitions. Oh, yeah. All right. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you find yourself watching this wonderful program. My name is Ramon Lowe. I'm the Director of Membership and Industry Engagement with the Airport Minority Advisory Council. And this is Legends and Leapers, our monthly virtual program where Ricky and Lauryn get to have a little fun with our legend and leaper. But before, I know Ricky, I hope you noticed, I went with Ricky and Lauryn that time.
You're catching up, man.
Okay. I got to make it even, right?
But I
Before
must
I
say,
get
we must be going through budget cuts or something because you cut the theme song short. I mean, you just cut right in.
we will do it. We will do it. Whatever I got to do. Before I hand it off to Ricky and Lauryn, just a couple of housekeeping announcements. One, if for whatever reason you were under a rock and you did not make it to our 39th annual Airport Business Diversity Conference in Nashville, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry you missed out, and I hope you have unbelievable FOMO. But it was probably the best conference to date, and we want to thank, on behalf of our President CEO Abby Wimbush, Chairman Ricky Smith, our board, chapter members, chapter officers, etc. We want to thank everyone who was able to attend, and I'm sure everyone who did attend found it extremely satisfying from both a professional and personal standpoint. But if you were not there, and if you haven't heard yet, or maybe you were there and you forgot, didn't hear, we will be in New Orleans in 2025, and not only just in New Orleans because it's a wonderful city, but it is our 40th. So I know Lauryn hasn't seen 40 just yet. Probably just me, Ricky, and Francisco have seen 40, but it is our 40th. So make sure you are going to attend our 40th year in 2025. Details to come. Now, depending on when you see this, again, because we will be recording this in addition to doing it live, next week is our inaugural Women in Aviation Summit, which will be held in Atlanta, Georgia. And again, thanks to our partners in Hartsfield Jackson Atlanta International Airport for putting this on. Like I said, this is our inaugural event. And again, depending on when you view this program, I could probably go out and say it was phenomenal. So willing to kind of go on a limb and say that. So I know Maria's going. I know Lauryn and Ricky will be there. So if you have not signed up, please sign up. Or you're watching this now, it was a great event. Sorry you missed it. So with that, I will hand it off to Miss Lauryn Mangum Reed. Lauryn?
No, you won't. You'll hand
Oh,
it
all
off
right,
to
I'm going to give it to Ricky
Ricky.
too.
Oh, gosh. He was doing so well.
I couldn't even jump in fast enough, Ramon.
I mean, you're really cutting the budget, aren't you? You're trying to cut the script and everything, but that's okay, Ramon. And I do want to piggyback on Ramon's comments about the conference in Nashville. It was an amazing conference. All the feedback that I get, I agree with you, Chef Maria Kemp. It was on fire, and we're looking forward to going to New Orleans. But before that, we're looking forward to seeing you at the inaugural Women's Summit. That will be amazing as well. So, welcome to Legends and Leapers. On behalf of myself, because I am only speaking for myself as a host, I'm not attaching myself to Lauryn at all because I just don't want to do that. So on behalf of myself, welcome to Legends and Leapers. And those of you that are here for the first time, see, Lauryn's gone already. No, she's not. You know that this is our effort to try and create some dialogue in a unique kind of space where we bring together someone who has been around in the industry for a while, not necessarily old, but maybe older, but certainly been around in the industry for a while. And we pair that person with someone who is still kind of finding his or her way in the industry, may have some success or some experience in the industry, but still would not be considered a legend at this point. And so we bring those two together. We ask them all kinds of questions. My questions are normally better than Lauryn's, but they're all questions still. And we don't give them the questions in advance. So see that smile on Maria's face? That smile won't be on her face in about 15,
Oh
20
no.
minutes.
No.
Because we're going to work on that smile, Maria.
Oh
But that's what
no.
we do. And it's informative, inspiring, but it's also hopefully inspirational as well and informative. So with that being said, I will turn it over to the person who believes she owns the show, She wants her name in the logo, and that would be Lauryn Mangum Reed.
So my initial is already there, and that's really enough for me. Thank you, Ricky. As Ricky said twice, it's going to be inspiring and educational. And then he said educational and inspiring. So if you weren't sure where you were, be prepared for an educational and inspiring
Not necessarily in that order.
With Francisco and Maria. I'm super excited, guys. I cannot wait to just jump right in, dive right in, and start letting you all know, if you don't know already, who these individuals are. So our legend for today, Francisco has a career in aviation spanning more than 20 years. He's participated in airport bids in countries such as Argentina, Chile, Uruguay, Dominican Republic, Colombia, and Mexico. Some bids involving forming a consortium to invest in large infrastructure investments ranging from 100 million, it started at 100 million, ranging from 100 million to $2.5 billion. Francisco recently served as the Chief Commercial and Marketing Officer of Aerodom, which was owned by Latin American Airports Holding at the time. At Aerodom, he was responsible for leading the commercial development and marketing for 6 airports in the DR. At the time, he also served as Chief Commercial and Marketing Officer in charge of Terminal 1 International Airport, which operated under the concessions by the Latin American Airports Holding. He has held several executive level positions at other airport groups in the region, such as Chief Business Developer Officer at ASUR, a private airport group in Mexico that operates several airports, including airports in Cancun, Cozumel, and Maria. He was also responsible for creating the first professional airport marketing team in Latin America. He holds a global Master's of Business Administration from the Thunderbird School of International Management, a Bachelor's of Science in Business Administration degree from it's in all caps, Ohio State University, and a Financial Valuation Executive Education Diploma from Harvard University. So, mic drop, that's Francisco. If you don't know, now you know. And then our leaper for today is Maria Martinez. So Maria is a business development professional and franchising expert with over 18 years of experience in sales, business development, and finance. She currently serves as the Senior Director of Brands and Concepts for Prime Concessionaire SSP America. Prior to her role at SSP, she was the Director of Business Development for Prime Concessionaire Areas USA. Maria has also represented global brands such as UPS, Jack in the Box, Qdoba, IHOP, and Applebee's. As a driven, goal-oriented, and self-motivated individual, she finds joy in growing businesses with valuable business propositions and concessions through the companies she represents. Prior to working in business development, she held positions in finance and accounting. Maria was initially introduced to AMAC and the airport concessions in 2016. Since then, she has embraced and worked passionately to support AMAC's mission. Most recently, Maria served as AMAC's Board of Director at Large from 2022 to 2024, and the Secretary of AMAC's Board of Directors from 2020 to 2021. She also volunteered as the chair of the AMAC Governance and Ethics Committee for the 2018 to 2022 term, as well as the AMAC National Conference Committee in 2019. Maria is fluent in English and Spanish and holds a bachelor's degree in international business from CETYS Mexicali, Baja California, Mexico. She also completed a finance certificate at UCSD. Maria immigrated from Mexico to San Diego, where she currently lives. She likes to listen to audiobooks and subjects of finance, personal development, and business. She also enjoys traveling the world and spending time with friends and family. So thank you so much, Maria. Thank you so much, Francisco. Again, I am super excited, more so because I know where Ricky's going to go with this. Maria has officially made history as it pertains to Legends and Leapers. She provided us with questions that she wanted us to ask.
Yeah. How about that? Yes. Maria, the first question you asked, let's lead with that one, okay?
Okay.
Not. That is not going to happen. That is not going to happen. So to kind of get you guys going, warm up a little bit, I'll give you a kind of a softball question. So why don't you tell us something, tell the audience something uh, special, significant about you that they otherwise wouldn't know?
Um, Something special that otherwise they wouldn't know. I'd say that, I don't know that everybody would know, but I do find that, English as a second language, for many may not necessarily understand that of me from the beginning. Um, as you shared in the quick little bio, Lauryn, that you mentioned, when I first immigrated to the U.S., I was actually not fluent in English, and it probably took me about, I'm going to say, 3 years to feel comfortable with it. I know my pronunciation is, it's not too bad. If I keep talking maybe for a while, then maybe you can start kind of listening a little bit and kind of hearing those, the accent. But overall, I mean, conquering the language piece was definitely an accomplishment. And, not everybody knows that, it's not something that, came in as, as natural to me, and that I had to really work, to become fluent.
Well, Maria, that English accent is pretty strong.
Well, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that would be probably the one thing, that I would like to share. That English is single. I'm still learning. I'm still, very commonly I just find out that I may not know a word, or maybe I say something incorrectly, or I don't know how to pronounce it.
Ricky's the same way. Yeah. He too has that issue sometimes.
Come on.
There you go. So that would be it for me. That would be my example.
So your expert dancing skills wouldn't be
Oh,
one of those
yes.
things that people, but I think everybody knows that, right?
That's right. That's right. I love to dance. I grew up dancing Polynesian dance. Actually, that was my very first, kind of dance. That's something probably nobody knows, but I've got pictures there. Dancing Tahitian, Polynesian, Hawaiian, all kinds of things. I did it from the time I was 4 years old till I was 15. So, so that was the first one. And then I started in classical ballet and jazz and tap and others later on. And, dance has always been a big passion of mine, which I kind of put to the side, when I started, the professional world. So it's been a little while since I've done it, but it really taught me a lot. And, it's just, it's just a great activity to engage.
Right. I don't know how you're going to top that one, Francisco. And I think for the first time,
I didn't do Polynesian. I didn't do Polynesian.
No, I think
I've got a salsa once in a while. I know, but
There
no,
you go.
it's a great story.
But I want everybody to hear your full name, Francisco
Oh,
Cuellar.
Francisco Cuellar, yes.
Right, there you go.
Maybe the older recall a company called Quasar, used to sell TVs. Maybe sounds like Cuellar. So.
Yeah, right.
Actually, people do confuse me with the founder or the inventor of the cellular phone, but it's not me. It's not cellular, it's Cuellar. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
Well, my story, how I landed onto this, if you want to know, which I don't think anybody knows, or maybe Maria knows, might have told her. How I started into the aviation industry or airport industry.
Hold on, Francisco. Let me ask you a question. So, can you tell us how you started in aviation? Maybe that's the question.
Well, no, there's something interesting. I wanted to tell you an interesting thing that nobody would know about.
That no one knows. Okay. I was following with you, Francisco.
Yeah, thank you, Ricky. Please. So actually, it was through an entertainment piece of, I guess, experience that I had, and it's a very long story, but I'll start at the end of that story, which is that I was an executive producer for one of the three tenors in Chichen Itza in Mexico, in the Yucatan. Wow. Yeah, and that was for Luciano Pavarotti in Chichen Itza. That was in 1997. You can look it up. There might be some YouTube still videos of that. And that was with a company, in partnership with a company called Ogden Corp at the time. And Ogden used to be in the aviation industry. But our relationship in Mexico with them was through entertainment and other things. In any case, after that, an opportunity came up, and they were developing an M&A group, and this is a company out of New York at the time, and this company was involved in catering and airport fueling and airport fueling and catering basically. So, and at the time they wanted to go after privatization opportunities in Latin America, and they formed an M&A group, mergers and acquisitions. They invited me after that event that we did together. We were trying to do some other things, but they were not panning out. And so by a luck of, I guess, of a flip of a coin, there was 4 of us, and I got to work on airports, and that's how I started. So that was back in the late 90s, and after producing a concert, it was a magical concert in the ancient Mayan city in the Yucatan. So
I love Chichen Itza, love Yucatan Valley.
And may I say, I actually, when I first met Francisco, we were talking about his beginnings just like now, and he gave me all the details of his, engagement with this concert, and I was just like, like I just couldn't believe it, because this event was a big event in Mexico. I remember I was, younger and was going to school. I mean, it was teenage years for me. But I was born. Yes, I was born.
Okay, good.
Yes. Yes. But I remember it was a big deal. I mean, there were, broadcast companies that were covering the event, and it was a big deal in the country. I mean, and so to just get to meet, obviously Francisco now, then he was, involved in putting that one together. I just couldn't even believe it. So just wanted to put that in there, a little tidbit of
Lauryn,
additional story.
I don't think they need us anymore. Maria, can you guys talk a little bit about when you first met each other? I mean, we don't have to ask questions anymore.
Tell you what, we'll need another session that'll be 2 hours.
That's right.
We don't want to bore people.
I'm like everybody else. I'm sure you guys have witnessed somebody that does something that's just amazing that you yourself would never do. Right? We've all had that experience once, twice, maybe 30 times. In my case, every time I see Lauryn, I experience something that I would not do. But anyway, that's another show. So if you could live vicariously through somebody else and have an experience that you yourself would not do yourself, what would that be?
I'll let you go, Maria.
Oh my God. That one, I don't think I would, there are certain things I would prefer not to do, but it would be great. Like, I do have the intrigue of, for example, like, I don't know, jumping off a plane. I don't think I would want to do that, but I do sometimes think, what if, like, what does it really, how does it feel to maybe do those kind of, I'm not going to call it reckless, but I mean, it definitely has a sense of adventure. And so maybe doing that, like kind of like jumping off a plane would be something that, if I was somebody else, maybe I would do it, maybe not in my shoes. Oh.
And most people, when they do that, they're not thinking about their shoes. But anyway. I'm sorry. Yes, I think your shoes are the last thing you'll be worried about.
Yeah.
Am I next, I guess?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's maybe being an entertainer. I don't know.
I don't know, maybe climb a pyramid in Chichen Itza or something?
Not that bad. Not like, oh, he was an amazing individual. But no, he would open his mouth and it's incredible. But no, more rock and rollish, type, where I could do that.
It's in you, Francisco. You can
always. I was going to say, so
you
you produce the artist, but not actually perform.
No. I leave that for talented people. Yes. No. Itself is just a complicated matter. But no, this individual is amazing. Yeah.
Oh, you're very talented.
I love that. So now that Ricky's actually stumped you guys with that one, that was a good one, Ricky. And that's the only positive thing I'm going to say about you for the rest of the hour. So we are in a very, very special month. It is the month of September. We are in Hispanic Latin Heritage Month. I was actually in Detroit at the beginning of the month, and to see all of the festivals and parades and everything was just so heartwarming and really cool. And I love opportunities to learn more about cultures, more in depth and directly from people who are, living and experiencing it every single day. And I think awesome, Maria, just that you were saying that, English is your second language. And I'm sure a lot of people did not know that about you. And Francisco, all that you have done in Latin America. So I know Ricky's not going to do this, but Maria, thank you for providing questions, because I do want to kind of get into this a little bit more so from an educational perspective, so that people can understand. So Francisco, I heard that you have like a really good way to describe the difference between Latino and Hispanic.
Wow,
Well,
that's good.
okay, I don't know if it's a really unique way, but it's just we were talking about it yesterday, and this came up. Of course, it's Hispanic Heritage right Month, and that the term itself, Hispanic, just relates to Spanish speaking cultures, right? And the reason I think we celebrate it in the States in this month is because this is the month in which most of the Latin American countries at the time got their independence from Spain, or declared their independence from Spain. It started basically in the mid-September time frame. If you look at all the different countries, Independence Days, they're about the same, and therefore, and I think it ends. It's not a real month of September only, because I think it ends mid-October, which covers through Columbus Day. So that's to tie into that, the discovery of the Americas and the rest of it, which happened in La Hispaniola, which is now the island of Haiti and Dominican Republic. But in any case, so Hispanic is kind of a term that just designates that sort of Spanish-speaking population. But then Latino, I think, refers more to a larger and broader coverage of origin. So all of Latin American countries. So we know Brazil is, they speak Portuguese, so their heritage is really Portuguese and not Hispanic. So then, therefore, the term Latino is more encompassing in terms of not only the coverage of where people come from or their heritage comes from, that is not only Spanish speaking, but covers, because there's also, in addition to Portuguese, other languages are spoken, or other of the Romance languages like French in the Caribbean, right? So that's another Romance and Latino type of a culture. You can argue Italian is also would probably be the same, but although Italy doesn't have really a presence in the Americas as such. So that would be my, explanation of the difference in the two terms.
That was very enlightening for me.
Mhm.
That was very, I mean, that was good for me, because I'll try not to screw it up. But what I also learned, African Americans, we're always upset that they gave us the shortest month of the year. They figured out a way to give you all an even shorter month. I mean,
It's not really a month. It's
I
like
know
the
it's
day,
not
like
right,
the calendar
exactly.
day, right? Yeah. It's literally
We
it's September 15th through October 15th. So it's like we'll give you the end of this month and the
Right.
beginning of this one.
Very
Yeah.
good. Something like that.
No, but Francisco, thank you. Thank you for that point of clarification, because I think that it's one of those things that, we hear Hispanic and then you hear Latino, and you're like, okay, trying to understand
Mhm.
the point of
Agree.
differentiation. So
Yeah.
thank you very much so for breaking that down. So Francisco, were you born in the US?
I was born in the U.S. I grew up in Mexico, so for
Okay.
me, English is also a second language. It's,
Hmm.
so I grew up in Spanish and living in Mexico, and then I came to the States when I was about 18. I had finished high school in Mexico, and I went to Ohio State, and the rest of it, and now the Ohio State, we correctly pronounced it, by the way. So, and then after that, I just spent a good number of years in the States, and went back to Mexico, and that's when I hooked up with Ogden and other companies then. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in Latin America, so traveling through all pretty much everywhere, the larger countries where this infrastructure I guess businesses were being privatized, right? So everything from airports, seaports, wastewater, water, railroads, you name it. All of that was going on in the 90s, and then basically through I think the middle of 2000s and so on. So yeah, spent a lot of time, and there's a lot of differences, by the way, differences in even some of our local slang, maybe something totally different and quite funny too. I mean, it's hard to explain in English, but so that's why I think Maria was talking about it a little bit earlier, right there. There's just so many different varieties of this, and that's what makes it a great, I guess, contribution to America in that there are many different, I guess, customs and beliefs and ways of doing things that even within the different countries, even if you look at Central America, I mean, from Panama on the south to Guatemala and Belize on the north, there are differences, and it's just very interesting, and it's very enriching, and it's very, I think, interesting as well for all of us, and that's what makes it, I think, the heritage celebration of that heritage, that Hispanic heritage, is what I think is what is being celebrated, right? The contribution of all of those cultures and so on.
Oh, thank you for that. So, Maria, can you just kind of break down a little bit more? I know Francisco talked about the vast diversity, right? Just within the community as a whole, but it's almost unfair to call it just a community as a whole because we're talking a whole, almost continent of sorts, yes. Right? So you have so much because you have all of South America, you have Mexico, the whole nine. So can you kind of get into some of those point of differentiations and the diversity within the larger community?
Right. Yeah. I mean, to Francisco's point, I mean, there is so much diversity within the Latino community. I mean, I know we're kind of being bucketed as like one single thing, but those of us who belong to this community really understand that there are a lot of differences between each other. And to be honest, I mean, for me, being exposed to other Hispanic, communities, in this country has even opened up my understanding of, other areas of the world. Because in Mexico, I mean, we're all Mexicans. So we all live kind of like the same things. But over here, I'm, having conversations with many people from many other countries. So there's so much, like I said, diversity because we come from different places, right? From Mexico, Puerto Rico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, El Salvador, Guatemala, even Spain. I mean, I wouldn't even just completely just kind of narrow it down to the Americas, right? I mean, I will even go to Europe. There's also Latino cultures out there that maybe not, that also kind of belong to this. So many cultural differences, and to Francisco's point on the Latino side, even different languages, right? I mean, we even have people that speak Portuguese or even people that speak Italian, right? But even those that speak Spanish, which obviously it's the vast majority of them, right? I mean, so many different slangs. I mean, even within a single country, there's different slang between different regions, let alone as you start to look at, different countries. So language is a big one, slang, or the mannerisms, the way that you speak, but even culinary, something that I learned while living in the US is that spicy food and the chiles is just a Mexican thing. I thought everybody liked the spicy food all across the Americas, and I learned that, Colombia doesn't do it and others don't do it. I mean, to me, it's like, of course, put on the hot sauce. It's like a very normal thing. And it turns out that it's a Mexican thing, so the culinary life, it can be vastly different in different places, the traditions, even music, right? I mean, we have different music. It's not the same, a cumbia, salsa, there's just all kinds of different, folklores, that come out of each country, or even artistic expressions, that, again, the diversity is definitely something that needs to be recognized because, although we all share many commonalities, there are many things that also makes us different. And it's great to kind of learn about what those differences are to understand the broad perspective that the Latino community brings to our community, to our society.
So, in the African American community, we like to make the point that we're not a monolith, right? Not all of us
It's true.
think the same, hold the same positions. There's diversity within our community. That's true in the Latin and Hispanic community. That's true throughout the diaspora, right? That we don't
Mm-hmm.
all um, carry the same positions on everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to pivot a little bit and get you to talk a little bit about your outlook on the industry, some of the things that are going on in the industry, particularly around diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are a number of challenges um, to programs that are important to us, programs that have certainly played a supporting role in helping us elevate ourselves economically. Can you talk a little bit about your outlook on um, your ability to succeed in this industry, given the challenges that we're facing? Um, Assuming you see them as challenges, don't want to be presumptuous, but can you talk a little bit about that?
And are you referring to the ACDBE and how our program is somehow being challenged right now? Okay. I mean, it is a surprise. I mean, for sure. I mean, it is. I think it is one of those things that it's a program that's been around for a while now, many decades, and for many, that's something that has. I'm going to call it more like take it for granted, right? I mean, it's something that people believe, well, it's always been there, will always be there. And we know now that that is not necessarily true. It is something that has to be fought for. It is something that we have to protect. It is something that we have to advocate, right? So it is important that the community, everybody that kind of is behind it, actually are pushing, to fight to continue to have programs like these, right? I mean, it is not new, to know that, there are communities that are in disadvantage, over others. And it is important to provide a platform that allows, for, out of, very well-deserved, recognition out of contracts, et cetera, but to allow for companies to compete, to allow for people that are, historically disadvantaged to have a way to be successful and to also create generational wealth, or create opportunities, for them, for their families, and for their communities. So again, I think we've been having a little bit of a wake up call over the last, couple of I'm going to say years. And what I would say is we all have to come together on this. I mean, it is definitely, there are places like AMAC, for example, that is fighting, to keep this going, but it's going to be something that the entire community kind of needs to come together in order to make it really happen. I mean, it's really in the numbers and the support that we're going to be able to continue to see this program live. And without it, I mean, I'm not saying that there won't be any opportunities, but certainly the landscape will become much more challenging. Not everybody's behind this, but at least the program that is in place allows us to have something to back us up. So that's what I would say around it. And in a way, I would like to maybe create a call for action, like trying to be more involved. I mean, something that I've noticed is many times as it relates to the advocacy of things. I mean, people like to come to our events, AMAC, et cetera, but they're probably not too aware that, there is a place to also contribute as a volunteer, or maybe make a phone call to, your congressman, to your legislature, et cetera. So to be sure that this continues. And again, I just not sure that everybody understands the importance of it. I think we're trying, and I think that we make great strides, but I think that it will require many more to pay attention and to really bring the issue up in their agendas and push it forward.
Very well said.
Sure. If I may, so that's a perspective from the DBE program, right? That's being challenged. You're referring to here, that recently was challenged and it's been, I guess, talked about now as to what's going to happen to that program. But let me offer a different perspective and talk about opportunities in terms of professional development and opportunities as a career in aviation. I would like to to think that at Houston airports, at least, we are a very diversified workforce. I think we can have, I don't know how many number of languages our staff speak. I think it's over 20, to be honest. I think many cultures, communities, and so on are represented here, and these are people that are great professionals. I have found and worked with European airports. I've worked with local investors, and I've worked with different airport groups across the Americas and so on. And I have found the Houston airports to be probably as diverse and as varied and enriched in that sense as any, perhaps more so than others that I've been to. So there are opportunities, obviously. I think that they're not, like anything else. You have to work for those opportunities and show your worth and have your contribution, be manifest and valued. But there are those, at least in this airport system, and I think that across America, I talk to my colleagues all the time, and I have found that to be the case. Might there be some areas where there could be better and more improved? Sure, but I think the aviation industry is an exciting and amazing industry. I think the challenge we have, however, is not just for us in particular. It's just a generational challenge, right? Generational challenge of the Gen Zers and eventually the Alphas, again, as we start the new generation nomenclature, but is attracting them to this because of the different perceived opportunities or things that they could do, and the different way they perceive the job culture, the work culture, and how they go about it. But in general, I would say that I was incredibly and pleasantly surprised when I arrived at Houston Airport 2 years ago, and have been just confirmed ever since that there are great opportunities for people that want to really develop their careers in different fields within the airport. So I see a lot of that still going on. I hope that is everywhere.
And Francisco, you just touched on something that's near and dear to my heart and really, really important too, because, everything else aside, if we can't continue to work on the succession and the next generation of leaders, the next Franciscos and Marias, in the industry, where are we going to be? So what are you all doing individually or collectively with your organizations to really hone in on the next generation and attracting the next generation to the industry in some shape, form, or fashion?
Maria, ladies first.
Sure. I mean, something that I think, and this is also something I think is very important in the industry overall, because, I do see that just like with everything, right? I mean, our industry is aging, right? And we need more talent. We need more of those youngsters that come in and start fueling those positions, or starting it with, younger businesses. I'm starting to see ACDBEs that are second, even third generations, and how do you prepare them, to continue on? The same thing with companies or airports itself, right? I mean, I think this is a very noble industry. I think it is an industry that is worth, really, promoting for the youth to belong. And for me, I mean, I am a huge advocate, obviously, of minorities and women. I happen to be a Latina, and as such, my interest is to continue to promote even, the furthering the Latino community within this industry. So as a result of that, I mean, it's really going to take, a community to really raise all these issues. And some of the things that, we're doing that I'm not going to say it's just me. I mean, it's really our community wants to be behind is, additional exposure to education and mentorship. I think that is something that we can all kind of be part of. If we can become mentors or tutors, to help inspire younger generations, I think that will be, a great first start for those of us who are already here, right? And in addition to that, just continue to expose, this industry and the benefits of belonging to it to, let's say, entrepreneurs, for further economic empowerment or lead, wealth generation. I feel like the ACDBE program right now is kind of like to a selected few, when you think about it in the broad scheme of everybody that participates and who are, part of these communities. There's just a very few that do. But, if we can continue to further businesses, and expose them to, and I'm talking to ACDBEs, but it could be, anything else business related. I think that would be a great one too. And also continue to collaborate on and network, with the industry overall, just to continue to form those alliances that somehow start, pulling in more of that younger generation to be part of it and to belong. I actually think that the airport industry aviation as a whole is just a super cool, very cool industry. And why wouldn't we want our communities to be part of that? Why wouldn't we want more Latinos? Why wouldn't we want more Asians, more, African Americans to belong to something like aviation? So I think it's just a collaborative effort, and one that, I'm pushing just in general. But I know AMAC is doing the same, and many others in the industry are doing that too.
So outstanding points. So I'm going to preface my next question with a clarification that on this show we don't try to be political, right? We don't ask for political positions, and that's not what we're doing now, right? But as we talk about the next generation and ensuring that the next generation has access to opportunities in airports, you can't ignore the issue of immigration, right? And how that in the Latin and Hispanic community in particular serves as a modern day impediment to maximizing not just the pool of Latin and Hispanic Americans having access to these opportunities, but even being able to focus and thrive overtly on those kinds of opportunities without the fear of having a target on their back of some sort. Is there a nexus between the two? Making sure that we maximize opportunities for Latin and Hispanic Americans and immigration, the issue of immigration.
Maria, any thoughts? Or I have plenty of thoughts. I have thoughts on everything.
Go ahead, Francisco. Go ahead.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Ricky, and to a point there might be a connection there. However, I'm not sure exactly if there is an impediment for somebody that is professionally developed and has a career already of sorts in this field and would wish to come and work in the States. I think that individual might choose a different path to emigrate to the States, and therefore might find it not easier, but certainly in a different way, a path that might be and may lead to landing a position, say in this industry. In the end, immigration is going to continue, and the demand for labor is going to continue in general, just not our industry, everywhere. It's just a fact. And again, aside of politics, and can be debated one way or another, but certainly the legal path is always the preferable for anybody that wishes to do it this way here. And we have, I think, again, drawing back from my experience here, is we have an example of that here, and plenty of them, to be honest. Very competent and highly just trained and experienced individuals that are part of our system that contribute every day to that and have undergone this process and this, I guess, relocation in a way that made it possible through the proper channels. But we cannot deny that there's that other piece of it, and that is going to continue to obviously affect the rest of it. But again, there are certainly not easy, but there are paths for anyone that wishes to eventually make that relocation. And it's not an easy relocation, incidentally. I mean, it sounds like it isn't. You see all kinds of things on the news, but there are different really levels of that immigration. Many of us have, I was born in the States and I was a U.S. citizen, so I was already a citizen from the get-go. But what makes you come sometimes is education, right? So you come and you get an education here, and then you eventually maybe would like to stay and land a job. And if you're not born here, there's a process for that, and that's one level of immigration. Then there is, the other kind where you're kind of maybe fleeing from a bad situation or whatever it might be. I don't want to get into the weeds of that, but and that is a different path. Not saying that those are not necessarily qualified. It's just a different path. Let's put it that way. So I think there is this path for doing it the right way, and I think that there are a lot of people that are qualified in here in the States. We don't necessarily need to go outside, and there are communities of ours, both on the Latino community or the African American community or the Asian community, as Maria was saying, and there are other communities, right? Plenty of talented pool in the States, and I think that within those particular communities, the challenge to your question, Lauryn, is how do we attract that talent that is of the younger generation? Is partnering with schools, is partnering with local, whether it's community colleges or universities, and continuing to offer options for those students from whichever community they come from, to be honest. But I mean, especially obviously from our more or less able communities, if you will, or with lesser opportunities, is certainly a positive thing. But I think there's a combination of all these things that need to happen and continue to have, and we continue to outreach and attract that pool of talent, because I think that it is a challenge, not just for our industry. Thank goodness, like Maria said, this is an attractive industry in many ways. It's a very cool industry, and it's one that once it grabs you, it never lets go.
It's addictive.
Yeah. It is addictive.
It's addictive.
Yeah.
Francisco, I appreciate that. And, really, I think for everyone that's on the call, right? I think that we're always talking about succession. We have amazing ideas as to what we can be doing. And I think really this is an opportunity. And I think someone mentioned like a call to action, right? But to actually go into the schools that, are in your area, that are near and dear to your heart, et cetera, and be able to expose students as early as possible to this industry. I know we always talk about from an entrepreneurial standpoint, because typically it's your family, right? And so you're exposed through family. But I want to see more leadership, more Jesuses in San Antonio and beyond, as far as that CEO position, et cetera. Because at the end of the day, and I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but the Hispanic population makes up 18.5%, like the largest minority of the minorities, right? And so we want to be able to see that represented as well throughout our industry at all levels. So that's just my call to action, is, to be able to get into the communities, go into the schools, and really be able to expose young people at a young age of all of the possibilities. So.
Well, to give you an example, we have a program here with Texas Southern University, TSU, and we have an internship program, and we expose ourselves and those young would-be professionals to our environment and our opportunities here. And I think there is a good number of success stories out of that program, and it only continues, right? I mean, we need to expand those, I'm sure, but those are the type of things that we're doing here, and we're going to continue to do, is in order to afford people the opportunity to have this type of a career and development for them. So yeah, we're very active on it, and we believe very much so in that.
I love that. Thank you.
If I may add something just real quick. I mean, I think that in this industry, just in general, we have perceived the need for, broader representation of the Hispanic community. We all know that it's a great, industry, but at the same time, we just don't see the numbers per se, reflecting, to your point, Lauryn, how 18.5% of the population, is Hispanic, and yet I'm not sure that we necessarily see that percentage being reflected, especially in positions of leadership. And so Francisco and I have talked about this, multiple times. And, as part of the effort that, we're trying to kind of push forward for our community is to, look for that leadership, look for that representation, look for that, education and mentorship. And as we continue to develop this, push within us, to push our community forward and creating that mindset, something that we have talked about is specifically, just bringing your community with you, in everything that you do. And it will and should also cascade down to bringing in younger generation into the industry. Because if you're thinking about how can I further our community, I mean, creating opportunities from the bottom, is really going to be, a big part of the answer for a different future, if you will. And Francisco and I have, like I said, he's a big proponent of this. We've talked about it before, and, as part of the efforts that we have been discussing on how do we make sure that, our community is better represented.
And part of that is we suspect that there are a greater number of Hispanics and Latinos in this industry that maybe are not as participating as some of us are, perhaps. So, and that is part of why I think that's to Maria's credit, this effort that you did, Maria, at AMAC, but putting together this happy hour reception, whatever it was. It's always going to start with tequila. I'm just saying. But,
there you go.
Or, I don't know if it's good. Anyway, I did I say that? So yeah, and starting that, Maria, and continuing that, I think is going to surprise us both and surprise us all as to how many are out there already, and it's just needing to get more involved and more, participating more in some of these committees and some of these bodies of, I guess, deliberation and what have you, and and that by doing so, I think that it will generate that positive traction and positive cycle, right? Virtuous cycle of getting more people involved and more people attuned to this. But I think that we might be surprised, Maria, that there might be a lot more of our communities.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Renato Camacho comes to mind, for example, the head of Akron Canton Airport. I guess my question is, there's room for more, right? And I'm not going to dispute that. But perhaps there's also room to educate society, but in this case, the aviation industry, that there's more in place than they know. Right? I mean, that there are already Hispanics that are doing well in the industry, who can become models and examples of just how it can get done. And perhaps more of that needs to be done as well, not just creating opportunities for more to come in, which is important, but also elevating those that are already here. Yeah.
And I will touch on that, Ricky, because you bring a very, very good point. I mean, something that, as you know, throughout my time at AMAC, at some point, in my journey, I was thinking, you know what, I mean, if I can become the chair of something, I can, be more impactful and, further the community. And then I got to the board and, and then like, okay, here's where I'm going to make the difference. And, honestly, once I got there, I was part of the board and, after a while, it just kind of, I shaped my thought process in understanding that this isn't, a one person, kind of effort, right? It's about a community. And, through the, few networking events that we have put together, I mean, we have seen that there is a spark and a need for the community to be represented. People are excited to have a voice, but we don't want to just come together and mingle, right? I mean, there's got to be a message that comes behind, and at our different events that we have had a chance to put together, or the gatherings that we've had, there's always a message of different goals that we want our community to achieve. One of them, and I would say I would start with a mindset, right? We need our community to think of, owning the involvement and the engagement and the success of this community. It doesn't belong to a single person. At the same time, is things like, how do we elevate the Latinos in the profiles of the Latinos that are already in existence? One of the challenges that I had is, obviously I know AMAC has always been very supportive of the Latino community, and they would come to me and they were like, hey, we want to feature some Latinos, like, who do you recommend that we do for X or Y session or X or Y panel? And, that's what struck me. Like, I was like, oh my God, I actually don't know. We were not connected. We didn't know, or we were aware of everybody that is out there. And that is really what prompted, us kind of having these networking events to, hey, well, let's start to get to know each other, because how do I elevate a Latino if I don't know it exists, or if I don't know what they're about? So we need to start kind of shaping, a network, that allows us to all get to know each other, and then find those opportunities where, we can be, promoted, as panelists, as speakers, or provide more recognition. I mean, if awards come up, how do I think of a Latino if I don't know them, right? How do I nominate anybody for a recognition if I don't know they exist? So it is part of the challenge, and something we're hoping we can help kind of curb. But it is part of those goals, hopefully this Latino community that we're building, within the industry will help address. So.
That's good, Maria.
Yeah.
And I always personally, I always appreciate your efforts, but what you just said was really profound. And back to, Francisco's point about, we say the community and the culture, but like, it's so vast. So you can't just look at somebody and be like, oh yeah, they're Latino, they're Hispanic. No, because they're literally from all over the world. You know what I mean? Everyone looks different. There's different dialects, the whole nine. So I love what you just said about just having those opportunities to come together and be able to identify each other and figure out how to continue to build and grow in that additional exposure and engagement. Because ultimately, one of the things you said in the beginning was, how do we make our voices heard? And there's power in numbers. So I absolutely love that, and I commend you for that. So thank you so much for your efforts.
And and when that opportunity presents itself, and I'm speaking specifically about Hispanic, Latin American community, when that opportunity presents itself, Ramon Lowe, you have to show up on time, right? I mean, when you have 2 minutes left in the show, and the host Ramon.
Oh, it's me. I'm sorry. It's me.
Oh, that's why.
It's me.
Okay, you.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
yeah. Ramon's on daddy duty. Sorry. I'm enjoying this conversation so much. And just the things that Francisco and Maria are saying. I wasn't even looking at the time, Ricky. That's my bad. Sorry, guys. Ramon, it's not you. It's me. I never say that. But we do have 2 minutes left. I do want to take this opportunity. If anyone had any quick questions, I think that, the chat has been just really talking about you two as individuals more so than anything. And Rhonda Arnold said that she's just extremely honored to have Francisco on the team in Houston. And you are a gentleman and a scholar. Marvelous, Maria. Everyone is just, speaking so highly of the both of you. And I just appreciate all the nuggets that you guys dropped, and really going back to what Ricky said about education and enlightening. This was very educational and an enlightening dialogue and conversation. So thank you so much. Real quick.
I actually said enlightening and education.
And then you said education and enlightening. You did both, so it's fine. Also, if anyone that's on has people in Texas, TSU internship program has been extremely successful, right? So you can just find someone that that has a student at TSU. Let them know that there's an internship program with the Houston airport system. That's a great way to get that exposure out there. But real quick, like Ramon said, the Women in Aviation Summit is coming up October 1st and 2nd in Atlanta. You can still register on site. It is geared towards women, right? But we do have a wonderful panel that's actually an all-male panel And it's definitely it's for everyone to attend, but it is geared towards women in aviation. So we're super excited about that inaugural summit. Again, it's going to be October 1st and 2nd in Atlanta. Francisco, Maria, you guys, I cannot thank you all enough. I was hoping we were going to do Legends and Leapers in Spanish, but then Ricky wouldn't be able to say anything.
Lo podemos hacer, ¿verdad, María?
Sí, claro que lo podemos hacer, no hay problema. ¿Por qué no?
Same to you.
Thank you for inviting us.
You too.
De nada.
I'll come up and see you soon, man.
Sí,
Okay.
muchas gracias.
Thank you guys so much. Have an amazing rest of your week and an amazing rest of your month. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Okay, guys.